podcast here from 2W Technologies. And so we're going to jump right in. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about, security, network security, cybersecurity. There's a lot going on, and you would think that this is something we would have solved. And the fact of the matter is we just haven't. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about new risks. We're going to talk about best practices, maybe some stuff you've probably heard from us before, and some new stuff. And then we're going to show you some tools that you can utilize, some of which you probably already own, to start measuring where you are and where you need to be, and some places you may need to do to work on your profile. So I think it goes without saying, right, that security incidents, if you have one, it is expensive, and it continues to be more expensive year over year. The average cost of a data breach is $4.5 million. The fact of the matter is that if you have a catastrophic breach, it will cost you a minimum of $100,000 to piece things back together. Lost productivity, lost production. It is a very intense situation when you have a catastrophic data breach within your organization. Interestingly, phishing emails are still one of the most popular methods used for this, and everything we try to do, it's constantly evolving. There's new tactics, there's new things happening. Ryan, what leaps out at you with some of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the one you don't want to forget about is the phishing thing. The emails, it's been a lot of years that emails have been the preferred entry point, for bad actors, and it's, they're not targeting your email security. Email security is not weak. A lot of people spend a lot of energy and a lot of money they throw at their email security, but ultimately they want to get in front of your users. The end users are the number one risk to your infrastructure. If they don't have the knowledge or the ability to identify those bad emails, bad links, bad websites, it's only a matter of time before those bad actors find a way in.
Yeah, Jason, it's kind of the soft underbelly, right?
Yep, exactly. No matter, and we'll talk about a lot of the capabilities later on in this, no matter how advanced the tools get or how high tech your environment is, the end user is going to be that weak point. It will continue to be.
So let's look at some of these new risks emerging, right? So Tom, we're seeing a lot of social media, right, ways around to get to the humans, that's maybe not through technology, because as Ryan said, we are putting a lot of security in place for emails to keep some of those emails out, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the bad actors have found a number of other ways beyond email, right? The old web banners and emails. Texting, social media are really, really popular. You'll see those whether you're on X, Twitter, whatever you call that. Any of the social media type accounts, you're going to see bad links or other misinformation. Texting is a really popular one. We've all received your UPS package is not been delivered. Click here to update your address or whatever. Those are direct phishing campaigns. They're collecting information, correlating with your phone number. These are not dumb attacks, even though they may look like it. So they're very intentional in how they're putting together that information.
And they're very engineered. I mean, yeah. What we've seen actually here at 2W is we'll have a new employee start. They'll announce that on LinkedIn, and then they will get a text from someone purporting to be me. This is a new employee. They don't know what my cell number is that I'd be texting them from, and it says something like, "Hey, I need you to run an errand and go down and buy Apple gift cards or something," right? And so we've actually put into our new onboarding process, we will never ask you to do that. just to try to get out in front of it. The
We
artificial
also,
intelligence. Oh, go ahead.
well,
Tom.
you know, just another variation on that I just saw recently, Mark. You know, one of our new client success managers, we brought her on board. She went out there, posted on LinkedIn and probably other social media. You know, hey, I'm happy to start at 2W, and she got a text message that same morning from me, purportedly, saying, "Hey, we're getting your accounts all set up," and asking for some information from her. So, you know, and it wasn't from me, and we already had our account set up. But, you know, that's a real obvious one for a new hire. Hey, we need to get your bank info set up for your payroll. We need to get your healthcare information set up. You know, those types of things seem useful and obvious to a new hire.
Yeah, and Ryan, this with artificial intelligence and all that stuff that's starting to come out, this is only going to get more intense, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, and a lot of it is, you don't know what you don't know, right? You know, and these new technologies come out, you obviously you want to adopt them because of all the, the features and the benefits and productivity, and things it can do for your business. It can do so much. It's all you're hearing about is the changes that it can make. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you've got somebody working with you that knows, how to fill in those blanks, how to clear up those unknowns and make sure that you've got, the controls and infrastructure in place, to prevent those types of things from happening in the first place. So, and artificial intelligence is a great example of that because, where's the data coming from? Can you trust the data? And if you've got your own model set up, where, how do you train it? Where is your data going? How do you ensure that it stays, protected, within that structure and that framework? So there's definitely, it's about understanding that you don't know everything, and that making sure that you've partnered with somebody that does and can provide you the security you need.
Yeah, one of the things we get is we have a security designation from Microsoft, and so we're privy to a lot of that stuff, right? Both good and bad. And sure, certainly people are going to start utilizing artificial intelligence for evil, but we're also going to be able to use it for good. And Tom, we were talking just a little bit ago about some of the co-pilot stuff that's being introduced to be able to recognize maybe data attacks or trends or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, that's, Copilot for Security just went generally available last week. That Microsoft product integrates into the Microsoft security stack along with Sentinel and other pieces of that. And being able to ask, or for security researchers or people in your IT team, your help desk, or our IT team and help desk for that matter, being able to just, I don't know, you get an alert that there was a malicious link was clicked on laptop 123. Well, being able to just say, whose laptop is that? Or are there any other alerts from that? Or is that laptop where I expect it to be? Or, those types of things, right? Being able to jump in with that is a really, a fantastic tool.
Yeah. So the Internet of Things, right? I just bought a dryer that I can now connect to the internet. I have no idea why I'd want to connect my clothes dryer to the internet, but everything else seems to be connected to the internet. And Jason, that's another soft underbelly, right?
Oh, absolutely. You never know, especially as you plug new things in and you connect them. You need to keep aware that unless you have them structured separately, they're connected to the same network, which means that if that device, say you bought a device, it comes from China or something like that, and you don't know the code that's behind that device, and you don't know what it's reaching out. Now you plug it into your network, it's reaching out to the internet, and it also has access to the rest of your stuff. So it's behind any of those gateways, any of the firewalls, any of the NIDs that you have set up in your environment, and you've automatically bypassed all that security you already had set up. So it's great. There's lots of cool stuff that you can do with Internet of Things, but you always have to be careful that you never know what it's doing.
Well,
There's some.
Go ahead.
There's some really great resources out there, on YouTube even but how to set up, how to set up your home networks securely, relatively easily. It doesn't have to be, not all of this has to be super onerous. I think that's one of the things for home networks. Now, in businesses, you've got a lot more layers of complexity, and I know we're going to talk about some of that. I hope we are. As before we moved on, I also wanted to mention something else about artificial intelligence that I've been seeing is, with DALL-E and image processing and things like that. Images, voice, video, these are all things that we've grown up trusting. It feels obvious, don't accept an email from me, I'll call you and tell you to send you that Apple gift card. It's pretty trivial today to take the audio from one of these webinars and spoof any of our voices. That type of thing. So again, having awareness. I hope we get a chance to talk a little bit about awareness and user training and things like that.
Yeah, so let's talk about the risks that are out there, and some of this we've heard of, and some of it you really don't quite know what it is. But let's start with just basic ransomware and phishing. And Jason, what is that stuff?
Yeah, so it's essentially the stuff that everyone thinks about first and foremost when it comes to security. When you talk about cybersecurity and computer hacks, everyone thinks first and foremost of ransomware. It's that software that gets installed and starts grabbing credentials or spreads itself on your network and takes down systems. As you can see on the screen, there's lots of other risks. It's just one of very many potential attacks that can take place on your network. But it's specific software designed to do a specific task or a specific number of tasks to gain information or cause loss.
It's all about just trolling. I mean, literally for information, hence the term. So Ryan, social engineering sounds like something the CIA was accused of doing in the 50s. What is that? What do we mean by that?
Yeah, it's social engineering was kind of became a thing with the advent of the social network. It's where the name kind of came from. But everyone nowadays, there's hundreds of social networks. Everyone's out there. That's how everyone gets their social interaction nowadays. No one wants to pick up a phone. They're using the internet. But that leads to risks. It seems harmless to go out there and fill out one of these dating surveys to see who your perfect match is, or to see what color lines up perfectly with your personality, things like that. But putting that information out there really can lead to higher risk, can lead to more compromise. It gives people the ability to, basically what they'll do is they'll scour the internet. So if they identify a target, they'll scour the internet for their accounts in these various social networks and look at what's publicly available on their account. And they can create a whole profile on this person with personal information that they posted, and then use that to try and gain access to their accounts or impersonate them, and gain access to other accounts, things like that. So it's definitely becoming an increasing risk with the prevalence of the activity online nowadays.
I tell you, the interesting thing is most people's passwords are similar in nature, right? I do think that still the number one used password is password 1234. But people use names of pets, children, right? Birthdays, all of which are available on social media. Yeah. So it's really not that hard to reverse engineer what you can learn from somebody and figure out what their passwords might be.
Yeah. And really even beyond social media, but just the social aspect of it, just calling someone up by phone, our help desk, we receive calls with people attempting to get password resets done for users that aren't them. Hey, this is Sally that works for XYZ Corp, and I can't get into my email. Can you reset my password for me? I mean, thinking through, how do you validate that that's really her? How do we make sure that this is the right person? How do we make sure that we're, so that, I mean, that's an aspect of social engineering as well, is just literally talking to someone and convincing them that you should have access to something, or that they should take some action for you.
So let's talk real quick about denial of service, because we do hear about that from time to time. Jason, what is that?
So it's essentially a avenue attack that is meant not to necessarily steal data, but it's meant to create a loss of service for your company. So whether it's taking down your servers so you can no longer process orders, or taking down your machines, or taking down your connection to the internet so you can't send and receive emails, anything that is designed to impact the productivity of your environment, of your company. And oftentimes that's the only goal of it, is just to stop you from performing your work, leading to loss of business.
Essentially just overwhelming the network.
Correct.
Yeah. So there's been lots of publicized data events that have occurred. I think getting back to what Tom had just said, I think one of the more interesting ones is the ransomware attack at MGM.
Yeah.
So somebody walk us through what happened there, how that worked.
Sure, I can. Yeah, I was actually just reading about this. It's kind of amazing to see what they did. And the group that's responsible for this is well known for these tactics. They actually used social engineering, just like we were just talking about. They picked one user that worked for MGM. This was a higher level administrative user, and they went through the whole social engineering process. They built a profile on this person and did exactly what Mark and Tom had talked about. They called into the MGM support desk and said, hey, I'm locked out. I need to reset my passwords. And posing as this person, they got the passwords reset, got administrative access to their systems, and they were able to basically branch out and gain almost full access across the board. And it was interesting because MGM basically identified the unusual activity on their MFA service almost right away. And following that identification of the unusual activity, they went and locked down all of their systems. So that's what you heard about on the news when they couldn't do any hotel check-ins, or all their slot machines shut down and just had error messages on them. That's because they intentionally went and turned their systems off to prevent further infection. And it was at that point then that these bad actors went and installed the ransomware, because they had no other recourse at that point besides to just infect the network and try and recoup or I guess hold them hostage at that point.
Yeah, and it's interesting that I mean, all of this work. I mean, it was obviously a big fish to be able to catch that, but we see that happening very often, even in our accounts. Right? Is we'll find somebody who has they've guessed a password, or they've reverse engineered a password, and then they will keep putting that password in, and the MFA is pinging the user on their cell phone to the point where they just click OK, like leave me alone. And then we start, then all the bells go off here at 2W that we've got an intruder into one of our clients' networks. And
it seems like once a month.
Yeah.
Seeing that. Yeah.
So I think that we're going to get to we'll move on to best practices here. But the key is if that's not you, don't click OK, no matter how many times it's bothering you, right? Because it's just another part of social. You just want that to go away because you're in the movies or the golf course or in a meeting or whatever. Tom, you have something to add? Or Jason?
This goes back to what we've talked about a couple times so far. That user is the weakest point. Whether it's they just got tired of getting the prompts from MFA and clicked OK, or if it's like the MGM and somebody called in and at that point it was the help desk that was the weakest point. The user is just the person. It doesn't matter if that person is in IT. It doesn't matter if that person is the CEO of the company. They are the weakest link.
So we've just spent 20 minutes scaring the heck out of people. Let's talk about how we can help them, button it down, right? So the key is to look at all of your IT projects with a security first approach. You have to do it, right? Tom, explain what zero trust is.
Zero trust is one of those great terms that, means something different depending on who you ask and what day you ask them. But, zero trust, it's been taken by some people to mean, truly zero as in zero trust, but really, it should be looked at as like zero implied trust or zero implicit trust. So, just because Mark is the CEO of 2W Technologies does not mean that his account should have access to everything all the time from anywhere. Taking, that type of example. So, one of the things we do here at 2W is we used privileged identity management. So when Mark needs to do something that his executive role requires, he just, quickly makes a request, and that elevates the access capabilities of his account. And there's a back-end process that manages and monitors that, and certain people are alerted and things like that. But that way, if Mark's account were ever compromised in some way, it doesn't, inherently have the ability to go change salaries or to go access client data or to go, I don't know, send phishing emails to employees or whatever a malicious actor might want to do. He would, that compromise doesn't by itself mean that now suddenly somebody can act as CEO. So that's in a real short nutshell. That's really what we're talking about.
Probably a whole webinar on zero trust we could do.
Yeah, one of the great things that I saw about zero trust, a great thing is you can't buy zero trust, you can only build it. It was a really great statement that I saw recently. I think it was someone at Gardner said that. And I think if you really kind of expand from there, you can start to get into the world of it. It's not something you go buy a tool. You don't go buy conditional access from Microsoft or, buy a third-party authentication provider like Duo or something like that. That doesn't give you zero trust. That doesn't give you that capability. It just it's a piece of building something.
Jason, one of the things we see in our clients and folks who come to us on a regular basis, whether they say, hey, I need to be compliant in this type of situation, or I just need to be more secure, or I'm trying to qualify for cyber security, is patching old stuff. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So as we all know, the cyber realm is an ever-changing, ever-growing, ever-expanding realm, and with that are the security incidents. There's constantly new vulnerabilities found. When the cyber realm was initially conceived, security wasn't really a thought. So as new things are produced or as new capabilities are done, new vulnerabilities are found, and the vendors are doing their best to patch all this. So as soon as you find those vulnerabilities and they find solutions for them, they'll patch them, they'll update them, they'll remove that vulnerability. However, if you are on an older system, whether it's a unsupported Windows OS like Server 2016 or older, if you're on old hardware that has old firmware versions of it, those things aren't getting patched. And from a vendor point of view, they can't support from the beginning of time up until now. So staying on those older systems, staying on those older pieces of hardware means that those vulnerabilities that are found, and they are continuously finding vulnerabilities from 2003 servers, from Windows XP systems, from old HP devices. They found some a couple months ago from into 2003 and stuff, and those just aren't patched. So you're leaving yourself open because you're not upgrading your systems.
If you are running old machines, and I completely understand that budgets, efforts, nobody gets a lot of enjoyment. Well, maybe these guys get a lot of enjoyment, but not many people get a lot of enjoyment out of a brand new server. So, and it's tough to buy, it's tough to expense. The economics aren't there. But if you're running these old servers, anything probably 2016 or earlier, you're at risk. If you're not patching your ERP system and your other systems, you're at risk. And you need to have that security first mindset to do that. Now, there's some really great strategies that we employ, leveraging a lot of the Microsoft tools and cloud technology to help you get out of that server rat race, that can help you. But you need to chase that stuff out of your business. You just do. Right. So we talk about multi-factor authentication. Ryan, it pretty much shuts down 90% of all the bad actors, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it really is a powerful tool, and and everyone knows that it's a thing, right? Nobody's not heard of multi-factor authentication, but I can tell you when we're implementing it, we get the biggest pushback out of anything when we're trying to implement multi-factor authentication. Nobody wants it. But it's so important to have in place for so many reasons, and not just not just on your email, right? Like anything that can have multi-factor authentication should. And I totally get it. That slows you down. It's an extra 5 seconds. You have to type in this code every time you log into something. Well, that in itself can be mitigated. There's other tools like single sign-on a lot of times is able to be set up in between systems. And that's, if you can do that, absolutely do it. And same with something like Hello for Business. It makes, signing in so much easier because you're authenticating with, like a code or your fingerprint or, the actual, your face is identified by the computer itself. So these things can all streamline that process, but maintain security at the same time. So I know everyone's always trying to fight MFA just because it adds that little extra time and interrupts your normal processes. But the trade-off is, the security you gain versus the productivity you lose is just it's a no-brainer.
That's really well put. And when it all comes down to it, the other really important safety net to your security profile is disaster recovery and backups. You need to have a disaster, and there is a difference, right? Tom, what's the difference? Run through the difference real quick between disaster recovery and backups.
Yeah, and really, they're kind of there in the names. Disaster recovery. Okay, so there's been a disaster. What do I do? What's the plan? It involves a structure. There's people, there's teams, there's a plan, as well as some technology. So, there's been a hurricane, there's been a fire, there's been a cybersecurity incident. We need to get back to business from where we were immediately before the incident. Whereas backups, have a lot of other roles as well. So backups might have compliance requirements. I need to have year-end financial backups for the last 5 years, or might have intellectual property requirements. I need to be able to go back to the last 5 versions of this machine tool drawing, or I need to be able to go back to, back in time to something. Those would be 2 key things. There's also then how are you handling those? So based on what your requirements are there. We see a lot of sites still today with, well, we have a USB drive that we take home, or we have, a secure facility or whatever. We have this great backup platform. Well, but what if that facility is destroyed, or what if, the disk is lost, or what if there's damage in the backup that you didn't anticipate, or, one of the things the bad actors, especially in ransomware incidents, are one of the very first things that they do long before they reveal themselves in any way is find all of your backups, find what your backup strategies are. They may spend 30 days corrupting your backups before they deploy their ransomware. So you're not able to go back to last week or last month. We see that, that type of activity. So those are a couple of things to speak.
There's answers to that, right? I mean, having an air gap apt offsite backup is relatively. It's not, and again, it's not a. Nobody gets excited. Nobody invites their neighbors over to see their new disaster recovery system, but it does it does give you that. It'll help you sleep at night. It is
Yeah.
absolutely critical.
One of
For
the
the sake of,
important things to
go ahead.
add to that real quick is
Please.
not only is the technology, Tom mentioned this a little bit, but it's also having that plan in place. It's one thing to have those capabilities of the backup, but it's also it's a completely different thing to know what to do in that event. You have a cybersecurity event, whether it's ransomware, whether it's a natural disaster. People need to know what to do for that. And part of that is having a plan in place, having the plan being known, and practicing the plan. So if our data center goes down and we have no data, what are our steps? You don't want to spend hours or days while your business is down figuring out, okay, what do I do now to get back
Yeah.
operational? You want to
Who's
have that all in
responsible for
place.
what and when?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if there's, I mean, there's really not a if about these things. It is a when. At some point, there will be some incident. What determines whether it's a critical incident that, you know, is a business loss or a relatively minor speed bump is how good is your incident response plan and how good are you at following it. And having an incident response plan should not be a optional or luxury item for really any business.
You know, I've had conversations with clients and they'll say stuff like, well, you know, I'm not that big a business, or we don't do anything that critical here. And the fact of the matter is if you're a business with a bank account, you're a target.
Yeah.
Right? And in a lot of cases, you're a bigger target as a smaller organization than you are as a very large international corporation, because typically smaller organizations are utilizing old hardware and they're not patching religiously, or they don't have good solid off-prem air gap backups. And so it is everyone is at risk and everybody needs to be diligent on that. So Jason, I want to, just for the sake of time, I want to jump to showing everybody the Microsoft scorecard. So
before we do that, there is
yeah.
one thing we should focus on here. We mentioned it a couple of times already. It's the education and awareness training.
Good.
It is absolutely critical. We've talked about how the end user is the biggest risk to your infrastructure. Well, this is how you solve that. There is no perfect solution, but if you get them the opportunity to identify, the knowledge they need to identify these things, or at least be knowledgeable enough to say, hey, I need to take a step back and verify if this is legit before they go to click on stuff or before they commit to something. It is absolutely critical. And that is a tremendous tool in your arsenal if you put that in place.
Yeah, and we've got some pretty nice solutions for that, actually. And they don't have to be, to do that doesn't have to be super expensive, and they don't have to be super intrusive. But you're right, you need some sort of a education and awareness platform. That's a good ad, Brian.
Yep, and I'll actually talk about one of those right now. So if I can share my screen real quick. So obviously we've talked a lot about all the best practices, the vulnerabilities, the examples of attack. And there are a lot of different tools out there, ranging from stuff that I would never want to see installed on someone's computer to the best practices out there. So some of the best capabilities out there right now might be already things that you already have licensing for. And so some of that is Microsoft's new Defender or XDR stack. So I'm going to kind of show you what these tools kind of look like and what capabilities you get out of this. So this is the Microsoft security platform. It's security.microsoft.com. And if you are a Microsoft customer and you are using, so for example, Microsoft Business Premium or higher licensing SKU, this is included in your licensing. So all of this capability, all of these resources are already something you're paying for and something you could fully utilize, whether you have different security systems or not. They're additional stuff. So right off the bat, you get a lot of great information and assessments about your environment once you've deployed these solutions. So for example, you get a security score. And now the security score is more of a method of you for determining like how secure am I comparatively to other organizations? You can see a comparison over on the right-hand side about where my score is versus other companies my size. And so this will assess other Microsoft companies, where they're at with their scores. And so 41%, not the worst in the world, but definitely could be better. And so I take this and I see exactly which categories those kind of fall under. Identity would be things like your Windows AD or your Entra ID solutions and protections you have in place on that, and how your accounts are set up, your data, security you have in place following, again, that zero trust model, applications, different policies you have. And then you might ask yourself, okay, what do I do about this? I don't like this. I want my score to be higher. I want to be above that average. Well, this gives you a nice big list of all the different actions you could take and kind of what you do. And Microsoft does a great job of kind of gamifying it a bit. So you get a score percentage and you say, I want to increase my score real quick. They're going to grade a higher score on things that would actually be a bigger benefit to your company, or to the security of your company, than other things. So the top one here is ensure multi-factor authentication is enabled. I could increase my score by 3.5% just by enabling that and enforcing it across my organization. Things like that. And as you go in, it provides a great stepping stone of, okay, what next steps could I take? What things could I do in my environment to make it more secure and keep working towards that fully secure environment? And then you kind of see a history trend as well of, okay, now I've implemented these policies. How did that adjust my stuff? If I see stuff going down, for example, something changed and decreased my score, that means maybe I introduced some new systems into the environment that don't have the policies that I want in place. Now I know that I have to go fix those things. So that's just something that is, again, it's probably already included in the stuff you're paying for. And so if you don't have it deployed, we'd highly recommend doing stuff. Along with that, and what Ryan was talking about, is it also includes those trainings and those attack simulation environments. So you can set up attack simulation. So you can set up phishing campaigns and false conversations and bad links and stuff like that. And you can send those out on a recurring basis to your users for those trainings. There's also additional training campaigns you can set up to with some CBT, some computer-based training and information about it. And all this is very well documented in the Learning Hub that they have for your IT security personnel. You have learning paths on what these capabilities are, what it means to implement those changes, some basic training for what it all means, different components of the Defender stack or the XDR stack, and what all these mean. And then in addition to that, there's also, I'm sure a number of you have compliancy requirements. So if you have those in place, there are Microsoft tool sets that, again, might already be included in your licensing suite that help you judge for your compliancy needs and do automated assessments against the different actions that need to be taken or regulation components that need to be done to meet those requirement needs. This site, this compliance.microsoft.com, also has some of the other capabilities that are very, very beneficial towards your security stack, such as insider risk management, which is, we showed it on the screen earlier. I don't know if we talked about it exactly, but that is going to be things both malicious and non-malicious. So a user, another example of the insider risk is somebody publishing company data that you didn't really want published, and they didn't mean to, but now information is out there. That kind of stuff is monitored by the insider risk policies. You also set up data loss prevention policies for automatically restricting what can be sent in emails or shared on files or anything like that. So a lot of these capabilities, again, are already things that you probably are already paying for. whether you have them implemented or not. And so they're just great tools out there that can be set up.
Yeah, you guys have anything to add what Jason just ran through?
Well, we could definitely do entire webinars just on compliance manager or insider risk or any of those. I think that, circling back around on all of it, using these tools, being aware of them, get them in the hands of your team or work with a partner like 2W to get these things configured, get visibility, and use them over time. This isn't a one and done sort of thing. Again, it's not something to be bought, it's something to be built. So that's what I
think the other takeaway to this too is that you probably own this already, or it's a very small delta to your current licensing. One of the things that Tom and I talk about sometimes, one of the things that just crushes us is when we walk into a client and they're spending all this money on all these other systems when all they needed to do was turn on and configure part of their Microsoft stack, and they didn't have to spend all that money on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got, I got one, so this is so Jason, take us home. This is our last slide. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so obviously in this discussion, we've talked about a lot of different tools, a lot of different attack types, a lot of different stuff about the cybersecurity realm. But one of the things we've mentioned a bunch of times is it's an ever-changing platform. And so you need to make sure that you're staying on top of each other, or on top of everything that's coming out, everything that's new. I've listed a couple of the government-run tools and organizations that will help you with that kind of stuff. The very first one, NIST, the National Vulnerability Database, that is going to be the official database for the CVEs, the common vulnerabilities and exposures. So as new things come out, and they are coming out daily, if not weekly, for new discoveries, new vulnerabilities, how to patch them, what it means, where you can find it, all that kind of stuff. And so that NIST one, the National Institute of Standards and Technology database, is the official government database for those vulnerability findings. The next one down is the Department of Homeland Security Information Sharing. So this one is something that you would have to set up and register for, but they generate reports about all the different cyber attacks and a lot of more information on their Homeland Security Information Network, that you can get a report. I believe that's weekly. They're sending it out about information about new attacks, stuff that's again, you have to sign up for because it's not it's confidential information in a lot of cases, but things to be aware of, things to monitor for, and stuff like that. CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security agency, also has a lot of great tools out there for helping to monitor. They have best practices, they have new reports, they have kind of just what things mean. And it's a great resource for getting started. Again, those are the three big or three of the big government agencies that have those publicly available resources, and I would highly recommend utilizing them as you're working to continuously improve and secure environment. Outside of that, one of the biggest resources is just the cybersecurity communities. There are many of them out there. Information sharing across those communities is some of the best way to make sure you're doing it. Now, that being said, you want to make sure you're on well-known and actually verified community boards. Things like Microsoft has several security community boards. Cisco has several. Gartner has several. IEEE has several. That is just literally sharing the information as it's finding it, as vulnerabilities are coming out and fixes and best practices are changing. So
yeah. So, and the good news is I will warn you, we monitor these, all of these, and stay on top of them, and they are a little scary when you read them. But we're making sure that everyone, that all all our clients are patched and updated, and security holes and 0 days are all taken care of there. So, Sue, I think that's what we have today. Gentlemen, great job. I think we're going to open it for questions.
Yeah, great. Thanks, guys. Yeah, just a reminder, if you have not submitted a question, go ahead and do that either through the chat box or through the Q&A box at the top of your screen. All right, we just have a couple questions. I got a form from my insurance company that wants to know if I am compliant. How do I handle it?
Sue, that's a really good question. Those insurance forms are getting more and more complicated. They're getting longer and longer, as I'm sure many of you are well aware. Some of the answers are very simple, like, do I have MFA deployed? But that's a simple question. Other ones are going to be policy-based. So really, the security questionnaires need to be taken line by line. And if you're unsure about stuff, we can definitely help you out in answering those questions and assessing your environment and or making recommendations so that you do meet those requirements. Because cybersecurity is becoming more. I think we said it in the slide earlier, the average loss is over $4 million. So security agency or insurance agencies are going to try and make it harder for you to get that insurance. So the questions are getting longer, and you just need to make sure how.
I think the key too is don't make it up, don't wing it.
Correct.
If just like any other insurance document that you have, if you attest to something that isn't true and then you try to claim on it, they won't pay you. And so you may get the cyber insurance because you decided to wing it or not use a professional to do the analysis or not pay for the money to patch all your systems or whatever, but it's not going to help you.
Yeah, I spot on, Mark, and I would add that it's a great opportunity to review your overall plan. So unfortunately, we see a lot of people that are out there and, oh, my insurance company says I have to have MFA, so they go out and buy some third-party bolt-on product that they add onto their systems that actually isn't configured correctly, doesn't do what they think it does, but it lets them maybe check that box off and they move on. And rather than doing it as part of an integrated plan, probably using products that they already own that actually work the way that that they would expect. But using it as an opportunity to do as part of the plan, I think is a great idea.
Okay, next question. Are guys on the shop floor not allowed to have their phones? How do we handle MFA?
I can jump in on that one. Probably Brian and Jason will have the more technically correct answer, but again, Windows Hello for Business. Windows Hello for Business is a fantastic product that's actually been around for quite a while, but things that enables things like fingerprint or facial recognition. So maybe your guys on the shop floor can't have authenticator app or authenticator text message or something like that on your cell phone, but you've probably already owned something that will allow you to handle multi-factor. So now they've got a PIN and their face, or a password and a fingerprint, or something like that. We can also, go ahead, Jason.
So, and to the shop floor question precisely, we get a lot of questions about that. Oftentimes, the shop floor users are happier with those kind of authentication methods because you can keep them happy but still move away from one of the worst practices in security, which is a shared account. So you can set them up with all their own individual accounts, but they don't have to remember their username and passwords. They use the MFA, they use the Hello for Business to authenticate in, and they're honestly happier than they were when everyone had a shared account and had the shared password that they all had to enter. So implementing something like Hello for Business is honestly going to make their job easier.
We good with that? Anybody else want to weigh in? Okay. Last question, unless we get a
Yeah, Sue, I could add that, the other thing there is, again, this comes with that, conditional access policies, and we talked about very early on. If shop floor staff are accessing particular applications from a particular location, we can apply a different set of rules, different conditions than if an administrative user is accessing an administrative system from overseas. Might have a different set of rules and around it. So rather than just trying to do a one size fits all, well, we have MFA now, but doing conditional access just makes things smarter. And so you're not overwhelming users with requests. Yeah.
Okay, final question, unless we get another one while you're answering this one. We implemented many security features on our email, and now I'm constantly getting prompted through our authentication app. Is there any way to lessen this annoyance?
We
Okay,
never
just
hear
kinda
that, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would go back to the conditional access, right, that Tom was talking about. It's really easy to set up, trusted networks or trusted locations so that if they're on, the corporate network or they're in a certain area, then they won't have to, authenticate or be forced to use that MFA in that location. The system's smart enough to know that, hey, if they're accessing the system remotely, then yeah, we need to verify it's them. But if they're on the corporate network, then we've got some additional level of trust there.
And that can go.
Along with that goes back to the fact that your security and your policies should be a living system. So you should be periodically reviewing those policies you have in place. The identity protection policies, the data loss prevention policies, those things that are triggering those reoccurring alerts and those reoccurring authentication requests. You should be reviewing those to make sure that one, you're capturing everything that's new in your environment and everything that's needed, and two, that you're following the best practices and that you're actually monitoring for the information that's important.
That's very good. And I would I would add to what Ryan was saying, in addition to your location, it could be device-based, things like that. So again, there are lots of capabilities, but reviewing them regularly as part of a overall plan, living, breathing, as Jason was saying, that's really what's going to matter there. So, and keep things simple. So you're not, we get it. Overwhelming people with MFA requests is annoying, and sometimes they make bad decisions then, like hitting OK when they shouldn't. So, using conditional access rules and policies to intelligently prompt people depending on what they're trying to do and where they're trying to do it from, and who they are, makes a big difference.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. I think that was all the questions that we have. Thanks for joining us today. Our contact information is up on the screen if you have any further questions.